The United States has sent over $300 billion to Israel since 1948, more than any country in history has ever given to another. And every time you ask why, you get the same answer: democracy, shared values, allies. But what if that's not the real answer? What if Israel isn't America's friend, it's America's weapon? The official story is simple. After the Holocaust, the systematic murder of 6 million Jewish people by Nazi Germany, America felt a moral obligation to support a Jewish homeland. When Israel declared independence in 1948, the United States was the first country in the world to recognize it, within 11 minutes of the declaration. From there, the relationship deepened. Israel became a democracy in a region ruled by kings, dictators, and military juntas. A shared legal system, a free press, elections, a natural ally, a shared civilization, the only outpost of Western values in an otherwise hostile region. That story is not entirely wrong, but if this were really about values, America would have cut off support in 1967 when Israel seized occupied territories in violation of international law. It would have pulled back in 1982 when Palestinian civilians were massacred in Beirut. It would have reassessed after the USS Liberty, an American naval vessel attacked by Israeli forces, killing 34 American servicemen in an incident Washington quietly buried. It would have changed course after the 45 UN security resolutions the United States vetoed on Israel's behalf, more than any topic in the history of the United Nations. Moral obligations have limits, strategic ones don't. To understand why America backs Israel, you have to understand what America needs from the Middle East. The region sits on top of approximately 48% of the world's proven oil reserves. The Persian Gulf alone processes a third of all globally traded oil every single day. Whoever controls or destabilizes that region controls the price of energy, and whoever controls the price of energy controls the global economy. In 1945, President Franklin Roosevelt met with Saudi King Abdul Aziz aboard the USS Quincy in the Suez Canal. The deal struck that day was simple: American protection in exchange for American access to Saudi oil. That deal became the foundation of the entire post-war American order. And from that moment, America's strategic interest in the Middle East was clear. The region had to remain accessible, it had to remain dependent, and above all, it could never be allowed to unify. Because a unified Middle East, one with a shared military, a shared currency, a shared energy policy, would have more leverage over the global economy than the United States itself. America's strategy was never to stabilize the Middle East, it was to manage its instability. Look at the pattern. In 1953, Iran's Prime Minister Mossadegh nationalized Iranian oil. The CIA organized a coup. He was gone within months. A pro-American Shah was installed. Iranian oil went back to Western hands. In the 1950s and 60s, Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser built the most powerful pan-Arab movement in history. He nationalized the Suez Canal. He called for Arab economic unity. He threatened to make the Middle East ungovernable by Western powers. America and Britain worked to undermine him at every turn. In 2003, Saddam Hussein announced Iraq would price oil in euros instead of dollars. America invaded. Saddam was gone. Iraq went back to dollar pricing. In 2011, Gaddafi proposed a gold-backed African currency that would let Arab nations sell oil outside the dollar system entirely. NATO bombed Libya into collapse. Gaddafi was dead. The currency never happened. Any leader who moved toward Middle Eastern unity or dollar alternatives was removed. And sitting permanently in the center of this region, a nuclear-armed American-backed military state that every Arab government was forced to respond to, that consumed the political oxygen of every Arab capital, that keeps military budgets inflated, alliances fractured, and any serious project of regional economic integration permanently on hold. That is not a side effect of American support. That is the architecture. But there's a layer beneath even the oil strategy. In 1971, President Nixon ended the convertibility of the dollar to gold, collapsing the Bretton Woods system that had structured the global economy since World War II. Overnight, the dollar became fiat currency, backed by nothing but trust. The question was, how do you preserve that trust? The answer came 3 years later. In 1974, Nixon's Treasury Secretary William Simon flew to Saudi Arabia with a proposal. America would guarantee Saudi military security, it would provide weapons, political protection, and a permanent military presence in the Gulf. In exchange, Saudi Arabia would price all oil sales exclusively in US dollars and would pressure the rest of OPEC to do the same. The petrodollar system was born, and it changed everything. Every nation on Earth needs oil, which means every nation needs dollars to buy it, which means there is permanent structural global demand for the dollar, regardless of how much debt America accumulates. The petrodollar system is the reason America can run a $34 trillion national debt and still have the world's reserve currency. It is the reason the U.S. can sanction entire economies by cutting them off from dollar-denominated trade. It is the invisible foundation of American power. And it has one critical vulnerability. If Middle Eastern nations priced oil in a different currency, the demand for dollars would collapse, the bond market would seize, interest rates would spike, the American economy would face a crisis it has no answer for. This is no longer hypothetical. In 2023, Saudi Arabia opened the door to yuan-denominated oil deals for the first time in 50 years. The BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and a growing list of others, are building payment systems to bypass the dollar entirely. The petrodollar is under more pressure than at any point since 1974, which means America's need for a fractured, dollar-dependent Middle East is greater than ever. And the single most reliable instrument of that fracture is still Israel. But none of this explains why America's policies never change toward Israel. Republican or Democrat, every administration, without exception, has maintained unconditional support for Israel. No American president has ever seriously threatened to withhold military aid. No Congress has ever voted to impose conditions on Israeli behavior. That consistency is not sentiment, it is a structure. AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, is one of the most powerful lobbying organizations in American history. It doesn't just lobby, it funds candidates, runs primary challenges against critics, and has ended political careers. In the 2022 midterms alone, pro-Israel PACs spent over $27 million targeting politicians who questioned Israeli policy. The message has been delivered so consistently for so long that it no longer needs to be spoken. Every politician in Washington already knows it. And underneath the lobbying machine is the defense industry. Every conflict in the Middle East is a procurement cycle. Every escalation is a sales event. Since October 2023, America approved over $17 billion in emergency military aid to Israel. That money doesn't go to Israel, it goes to Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Boeing, General Dynamics, companies that fund the campaigns that approve the aid that funds the companies. Eisenhower warned about this machine in 1961. It found its most permanent, most protected market in the Middle East. So, let's go back to the original question. Why does America keep spending billions to support Israel's wars? Not because of shared values, though those are real. Not because of the Holocaust, though that guilt is real too. not because of AIPAC, though that power is absolutely real. The answer is structural, financial, and it has been consistent for 75 years because the underlying interest has never changed. America needs the Middle East dependent, divided, and dollar-denominated. Israel makes that possible. It is the permanent irritant that prevents Arab unity, the security crisis that keeps every government too consumed with survival to build a collective economic alternative, the nuclear-armed enforcer no neighboring state can ignore, the weapons laboratory that keeps American defense technology sharp, the political sacred cow that keeps Washington disciplined. Israel is not a charity case. Israel is infrastructure. Infrastructure for American financial dominance.